Welcome to our Friday Forum. It's Jamie Dickenson and myself, Cyndy McDonald, and we're just so glad to have you here. We've started these Friday Forums because life is so uncertain and just chaos right now. And we are bringing these Friday Forums to you to kind of cut through the clutter and give you some perspective. So glad to have you here. My name is Cyndy McDonald. I've been an educational consultant for many years. I live in the central section of California, the part that I say that nobody knows exists, because we live where there are more cows than people. So I'm glad to be here. And I have with me Jamie Dickenson. So we're glad to have Jamie. She's an MBA, she's a CEP, she does all business. I do the education side and she does the business side. So we're very glad to have everyone here. Our goal in our Friday Forums is to help you find a bird's eye view of the week's news. We just want to cut through the clutter. We hear all these things. Some weeks it's more, some weeks it's less. But we're also going to give you a personal take on the week's news. And I have some very special things to share this week that I think you'll find amusing. Also to provide a forum for asking questions and sharing your take on the week's news and how it's affecting your students, your families, yourself in this area. And we're focusing both on the business side and also on students and education. So we hope that you want to join us each week until we don't need this anymore. So I'm flexible. Jamie, are you flexible?
Hey, I don't have anything else to do right now.
And we have Krista Green with us as well. She'll be managing and monitoring your questions. And there is a Q&A box that you can use to put in questions. And we'll take some more questions at the end today. We're going to address some of the questions from last week. And we'll address questions also, but we know we won't have time to get to all of them. So we'll continue gathering questions and either I answer them through email or save them for next week. So that generates our opportunity and our discussion points for the week. So Jamie, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's go.
All right, hi everybody. Coming to you from wild, wonderful West Virginia, the Coronavirus National Championships here, because we were the last state to get a coronavirus. So that just tells you we don't have a whole lot going on here. So we took the Q&A from last week, and this is kind of what I'm calling my hot topics. So these are what you all were more interested in, and so that's kind of how I'm going to focus my presentation to you today. But I don't know if you all have ever heard of the book, Think and Grow Rich. We use this in the IEC Business Intensive Boot Camp that I do, because when I was growing up, my dad taught Dale Carnegie, and so I have a tendency to use a lot of Dale Carnegie stuff. But in this book, Think and Grow Rich, if you've not read it, it's an oldie but a goodie. It still is very prevalent now. He talks about a mastermind, and that's kind of part of the premise of all this, is that we get together and we mastermind, we, feed off each other's energy. We, your experiences could be valuable to somebody else. And I really believe in that. And I feel like we don't have enough of that. Like when we go to a conference, it's always somebody talking at you instead of, having a lot of one-on-one interaction. So I want to do a little exercise that we would normally do like in a boot camp. So I want everybody to get a piece of paper and a pencil, and we're going to go through a few questions because my whole premise is that I want you to work on your business and not in your business. And from when I listen to a lot of the questions and a lot of the comments that you have, I think a lot of you all are working in your business and not on your business. So if everybody will get just a blank piece of paper and a pencil, I'm going to go through a series of questions, and as we say here in West Virginia, I want you to have a little come to Jesus meeting with yourself. So turn your text off, turn your chat off, clear your head, think about a few things. Now, one thing that I'm notorious for is that I kind of speak my mind and I'm opinionated, and if I say anything that hurts your feelings, just just, it's okay if I hurt your feelings. So, but I really have strong opinions about that educational consulting is a profession. And if you think about what world I came out of, the stock brokerage world, the accounting world, you know, where everything is professional, I think that if we are going to be, if we want to be treated as a profession, we need to act professional, and that, you know, we're all in this as a business. So I want you on the left-hand side of your paper to write hobby or business. And then on the other side of the paper, I want you to put yes or no. Okay. And so whether you do yes or no will be the answer. And so here's what I want you to think about in this exercise. I want you to think whether you are in educational consulting business. If you think about it as a hobby, which is something that you just like to do, you like to dabble in, or if you're doing it as a business. Me, I'm doing it as a business. This is how I live, I eat, live, breathe. This is the only way I generate money. So I seriously take this as a business. And so I want you to think about whether you think educational consulting for you is a hobby or a business. And then we're going to get to the hot topics, and this will be prevalent as we go along. So I want you to now answer whether you think it's a hobby or a business. Just write it on your paper, what your initial thinking is, and then we're going to go through a series of questions, and then I want to see if you change your mind by the time we get to the end. Okay, so here's the first question, and I want you to answer yes or no. I don't think I will still be in business in 3 months if things don't change with this economy. I constantly have a knot in my stomach when I think about how to keep this business going. If the answer to that is, so circle whether you think, yes, that applies to you. Do you still think you'll be in business 3 months from now if this economy, if we stay shut down? And if you answered yes to that, I want you to go under the business category and just put a slash, because I want to keep track of whether you think you're a business or your hobby. If the answer to that is no, like if you think, yep, I'm going to be in business in next year, no matter what happens, I don't get nervous about what the future holds, then I want you to mark it no. And if that's the case, I want you to put a mark under hobby. So the question is do you worry about this business? Do you think you'll still be in business in 3 months? I want to see what you think about it. Okay, so if it's yes, put a slash under business. If it's no, put a slash under hobby. That's the first question. Okay? Second question. I have one checking account for personal, and I have one checking account for my business. Okay? So if you have separate accounts, one for your personal and one for your business, and the answer to that is yes, I want you to put a slash under business. If the answer to that is no, I want you to put a slash under hobby. So I'm asking if you commingle your business and your personal funds. All right, that's something I want you to think about, because if you commingle your funds and you get audited from the federal government on your business, they have the ability then to go straight into your personal stuff. All right, here's the next question. I regularly consult with a tax professional and occasionally with an attorney. If the answer is yes, I want you to put a slash under business. If the answer is no, I want you to put a slash under hobby. All right, the next question. I have employees. If it's yes, put a slash under business. If it's no, put a slash under hobby. And then the next question is, I pay those employees with a W-2, not a 1099. If it's yes, put a slash under business. If it's no, put a slash under hobby. Okay, now if you think about that, that is one of the things, those are indicators that you're really serious about your business, okay? And so if any of that offends you, if you thought, you know, I don't consider my business a hobby, you know, I've had so many emails from people who are upset that this PPP loan, they did not have a business relationship with a bank and they couldn't fill out an application. Well, part of the way that the PPP loan is going to ensure, these banks are going to ensure that you're going to spend this money on payroll is if they have an account that you pay your payroll out of. So I have an account that I pay my payroll of. So that is very easy for a bank to look and see that I have payroll. If you have a personal account that you just run your business stuff through, you know, a bank is not going to see that as a banking professional relationship. So that's what made me think about this is you've got to understand, yes, a business checking account might be more expensive, might be more fees, but when it comes down to this, in the eyes of a bank, you don't have a business checking account. So those are some things that I want you to think about. And then if you have a lot of slashes under H for hobby, then maybe you need to reconsider and then think about all the stuff we're going to talk about and how are you going to get serious about your business. Because, you know, I used to say this a lot at one of the professional associations that I was in, and it would make everybody really mad, but I didn't care because I would say, if you are in this for a hobby, you need to get out. Because the IRS, your state government, nobody else considers anything that you do a hobby. And you have to make money at it after so many years, or the federal government will determine it's a hobby anyway. And then that's not good. But, you know, those of us who are in it to win it, those of us who are in it, you know, we need the business. So I want you to really have a little come to Jesus meeting with yourself and ask yourself, am I in this for a business, or do I just think this is fun? If you think this is a hobby, maybe you are better off to go volunteer at a school or something where you don't expose yourself to a federal audit. You don't expose yourself to the liability of being in business. You don't expose yourself to, you know, being in this and not having the correct insurance. So that's the one thing that I really want you to think about. Like, are you in this for business or are you in it for a hobby? So that being said, there was a comment made that last week I said I did not want anybody to drop their fees. That if you wanted to feel like after this was over, you needed to give somebody a discount, that, you know, raise your price up 15% and then give a 15% discount. It was really interesting for me that somebody made the comment that they thought that was highly unethical. Well, I had to laugh, because if you've ever known a realtor who wanted to list your house, guess what they do? They pump the price up so that then they know you're going to get an offer and you're going to negotiate it down. Same thing with a car. You go to buy a car, the price is inflated so that you feel good after they give you a thing. So to me, that is just a pricing strategy. And I don't know anything being unethical about a pricing strategy. Now, I have never figured out what it is with educational consultants that you feel like you cannot change your pricing. Okay, there is an Exxon station across the street from my office. They change their prices every day. When you're on a plane, the person sitting next to you probably did not pay what you did. Every time you call one of the telephone companies to check about moving to somebody else, they've always got a new package for new people. So if you thought that my comment that, you know, up your price to reduce it was unethical, it's just a pricing strategy. So if that's the case, you know, I think that my business boot camp will be good for you. All right, so that was just a vent I had to go on. So next, the biggest question that we took out of the Q&A and the comments from last week is that most of you all cannot figure out if you are self-employed. Because what was happening, it was like, I'm an LLC, am I self-employed? I'm a sole proprietor, am I self-employed? And the answer to it is really simple. So get your pencil. This is going to be a yes and no question, okay? It's very easy. So do you have a boss who can fire you and put you out of a job? If the answer is yes, you are not self-employed. If the answer is no, you are self-employed, okay? I do not have a boss that is going to walk in tomorrow and is going to fire me. I am self-employed. So you all are getting your tax entity status messed up in your head with whether you are or are not self-employed. So here's the deal. It doesn't really matter whether you're an LLC, a sub S, a sole proprietor, a Schedule C. If you don't have a boss, if you don't get a W-2, you are self-employed. So first of all of you all got to understand that if you are self-employed, which I think the majority of us are, then you are self-employed. And this new CARES Act is going to apply to you, correct? So that was the most interesting thing that I realized, that you all could not figure out whether you were self-employed, okay? So now, that was one thing. And if you all have comments or questions, Chris is fielding them, so please put them to her. And then from your comments and your Q&A, then we're going to take the hot topics for next week. All right? One of the questions somebody asked was, if I file for unemployment, do I tell my clients that I applied for unemployment? Okay, you know my answer to that. No, it is none of their business. And to be honest with you, all of your clients have probably filed for unemployment too. I mean, 16 million people have applied for unemployment. You are doing whatever you need to do to stay in business. And like I said yesterday, I was interviewed on TV here, and somebody said something about, like I said, I've applied for every single thing. I don't know what I'll get. As of today, I've not gotten a dime of money from anybody, and I've been completely shut down for 30 days. But you owe it to your clients to stay in business. So if you got to file for unemployment, you do. If you got to file for the PPP loan, you do. If you got to file for the EIDL loan, you do. And there in no way, shape, or form should your ego be involved in any of that, because you owe it to your own family. You owe it to the hard work that you have put into this business to stay in business. And if the federal government comes out and says this is a small business act for self-employed people, that's the majority of business around the country. So yes, you are self-employed. There should be no shame in applying for unemployment. You know, thank God it's online, because otherwise, yes, I would drive my Mercedes to the unemployment office and I would be proud that I did. So you just do whatever you could do. So my answer is no, it's none of your client's business if you have filed for unemployment. So self-employment is included in every bit of this COVID legislation. So don't let the fact that this COVID Act, the CARES Act, whatever, there's like 3 different parts to it, throws you off because it's for businesses less than 500 people. The reason, 500 employees, the reason they do that is because that is the SBA definition of small business. So if you have 450 employees, you are still a small business. If you have 4 employees, you are still a small business. And those of us, like me and Cyndy, who are females, are minority-owned businesses in the eyes of the SBA, so that helps even more. Okay, now let's talk about the fact that this is all over the news, that the PPP funding has been gone. It's from my understanding, and again, go to treasury.gov and look under the FAQs under the coronavirus. That's just where they post everything every morning. It's updated every night. If you had already filled out your application, like I had already filled out my application, it is my understanding that I'm in this pot of money, this $350 billion. Now, I talked to my banker. I don't know if your bank will do it, but if your bank is still allowing you to submit the PPP application, you need to go ahead and submit, even if the first round of funds are gone, because if this $250 billion goes up, then you'll be in the pot. Now, if your bank says no, they're not going to let you apply until these other funds are submitted, then the day this extra funding is approved, you need to get on there and fill out your PPP. Does that make sense? So the funding has been expended. Now, let me tell you all something. You think about how terrible it is for these banks that are trying to figure out how many scammers have tried to go on here and apply for this PPP. I mean, for these banks, it's probably like they're trying to take a drink out of a fire hydrant. That's why they are so particular about the fact that you have a business relationship with them, because then they have verified your employment. I mean, they verified your federal ID number. They have looked at you. They've looked you up on the Secretary of State's office. So, you know, don't take it personally if a bank says, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to deal with you because you don't have a banking relationship with us. They don't have the time or the effort or the energy to go up back and try to figure that out. So I think that that's something that you need to think about. If your application is submitted, you should be in the pot. And if it's not, and you can go ahead and apply, do it. Otherwise, do it when it pops open. Now, next topic. Everybody gets so concerned about the difference between a 1099 and a W-2 employee. And there was a majority of the questions about that. Other than whether you were self-employed, the majority of the questions were the difference between a W-2 and a 1099. Okay, the federal government, the IRS, considers anybody that works for you an employee, and you have to prove otherwise that they are a 1099. The difference between a 1099 is, and if you read in this legislation, they are their own business. So part of the criteria as to whether they're a W-2 or a 1099 is if you have control over them. If you have control over these people, the federal government's going to consider that they're your employee. If somebody comes in and does office work for you and they have their own business license, and they do it for other people around town, that's fine to pay them as a 1099. But you have to have a contract. Usually the difference between an employee and a 1099 is you have a contract with 1099 people, and at some point that relationship has to end. It can't be an ongoing process. So kind of the difference is 1099 versus W-2, control, and then 1099 should be a short-term contract. It ends at some point. They have their own business. They usually do this for other people. If you don't know whether your employees are a W-2 or a 1099, please consult your tax professional. And if you answered no to that question, that you don't really have conversation with your tax professional, you had better get one now, because we are in a whole new world with this coronavirus and this stuff, and you know, all of these tax credits, personal, business. I mean, you truly need to get a tax professional. All right. The other question that people had was how to calculate the PPP amount if you didn't have any employees. And maybe I didn't do a good job of explaining that. If you do a Schedule C on your tax return and you've already got 2019 filed, you could just take your Schedule C from your 2019, whatever your net income is, divide it by 12 times 2.5. That's how much it would be. If you are like me and you've got your 2018 filed, but not your 2019, I took my Schedule C from 2018, uploaded it, and then out of my QuickBooks, I did my P&L, my profit and loss from 2019, and uploaded it. And I took my 2019 income divided by 12 and times 2.5, and that's how much I added in for myself. Okay. And if it was more than 100,000, you only get $8,333 a month times 2.5. Now, here's what I want you to think about. If you are a self-employed person, educational consulting at your house with no employees and no rent, think about what this bill does. You are calculating 11 weeks of pay, right? 2.5 of your monthly, 11 weeks. But the forgiveness period is only 8 weeks. So I can probably tell you with some certainty that if you are a self-employed IEC at home with no employees and you do the full 2.5 amount, there's at least 25% of it, well, however many, 11 from 8 weeks, that you're probably going to have to turn into a loan or pay back. And nobody ever tells you that, right? That's like one of the little caveats of it. Like me, I have rent and employees. I can pay 75% of it can be forgiven. The other 25% I can pay rent and utilities. I probably will not have that problem because I'll probably go way over that. So that was the one thing. That was another thing, like how to do that. Okay. The next question was, how did you prove partial unemployment? So people were getting confused about applying for unemployment, that they still had some revenue coming in their practice and things like that. If you read this act, it says unemployment or partial unemployment. So the way that you figure out partial unemployment is like from today, 90 days back in 2020, and you can do this easily in QuickBooks, compared to the same 90-day period in 2019. If it has gone down more than 50%, that is partial employment. So I did mine yesterday, and I'm down 84% at the yoga studio. I have a yoga studio. I'm down 84% at my yoga studio, and I'm down like 60% at my tutoring center because it has completely wiped me out of test prep. This was a big time for me. AP prep, you know, my kids trying to qualify for their scores on Promise Scholarship. So even if I got a little bit of money in, I still by definition am at partial unemployment because I've had more than a 50% drop in my comparison to the last time. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, next question. Can you apply for help from this COVID legislation even if you have money saved? Okay, people, when you look at this legislation, it's going strictly on income. It says nothing about savings. I mean, as far as I can tell, you could have $1 million in the bank and you can still apply for help. So as far as I can tell, savings is not criteria to qualify or disqualify. Now, yes, there are income exclusion levels on the tax rebate checks. Depends on whether you're married, single. It phases out. I know for the single, it's up to $75,000. You get that. Some people have already gotten, a lot of my employees have already gotten the rebate checks. I have not gotten a dime. I feel like I'm like black X here. I cannot figure out why I'm like stuck in a pipeline, but I've not gotten a dime. So yes, there are income exclusions on that. Oh, the other question, which was a good question, what would be the unemployment date? Like when you file, what should be your date of unemployment? I would put, which is what I did, I put the date the governor shut me down. So to me, that's your first date of unemployment. So that should help. And one thing that happened here in West Virginia on the unemployment, there was not on the unemployment form, of course, they didn't have time to update it. There was not a place for me to say that I laid my employees off due to COVID. I had to put that as an additional note. So I put lack of work, or you can put temporary layoff. The reason I put lack of work was because I didn't know if there was going to be a recall date. And so you could use temporary layoff, lack of work, and then there's usually a comments place where you could say, I had to lay Krista Green off due to my business being shut down by order of the governor of West Virginia on this date. And so far, that has not been an issue. Okay. So that was the gist of the majority of questions, and I blew through that really fast, but that might give you some other ideas about things that you could do. Now, the one thing that I do want to point out to you all is this, which nobody has been talking about, okay? As part of this act, there is an employee retention tax credit. So if you didn't qualify for the PPP, you didn't get your application in, and you still have employees, talk to your tax professional about this employee retention tax credit, because you can either take the tax credit or you can take the PPP. So if this PPP has eluded you, then talk to your tax professional and see if you can get this employee retention tax credit, which means that as you're paying your employees, you're going to take that pay out of your 6.2% of their FICA tax, and you take it out of what your 941 deposit would be. Okay, so that is like everything that I thought about. Oh, the other thing is you can go to the IRS and go to Get My Payment, and I think they actually did a new app, and you could try to go in there and see where your rebate check is. Mine did not work. So, I mean, I tried to go in there and check, and it didn't work. So there's all kinds of stuff in this loan the idle payment. One of my friends sent me an email this morning and said she did get $1,000 from her idle loan. And so I haven't gotten anything from that. So old Mother Hubbard, my cupboard is bare. And if anybody else is bare, I'm going right along with you. So now if there's anything that you want us to talk about next week, just let Krista know for sure. And then Cyndy and I will try to address it. But I love the fact that you all gave your questions, because it really gives me and Cyndy a whole lot of thought about what we want to answer. So Cyndy, I will turn it over to you, and then you can do your thing. And then if Krista has time, she can throw some questions out there for us. Okay.
Okay. That sounds great, Jamie. Yeah, because I've been looking at the questions too, and there's some really good questions, and they're all very specific about some of the things you've been talking about. And, this really is a very uncertain time, and, what's going to happen in this CARE Act and how that all works. One thing I wanted to say before I get started. This is, I'm speaking for me and for you.
So, and this used to happen, I don't know if it happened to you, but it used to happen to me every time I leave a conference. I would be inundated on people emailing me, asking me questions. I just want to pick your brain. And that happened to me after we did this. After we did this, I got a lot of emails. I just want to talk to Jamie for 10 or 15 minutes. And so I'm going to say this on behalf of me and Cyndy, because we're in this for business and we do it. And in my business boot camp, I tell you, do not let people pick your brain for free. You have a body of knowledge that they need to pay you for. So please have respect for me and for Cyndy both, that, we both do business consulting to IECs. I mean, you can go to my website, IEC Advisors, I do a mastermind. If you want to do it with me, you can pay $25 a month and go online once a month with me. Cyndy's doing her own thing. And, we've committed to do this till we roll out phase 1, till we go back to work. And then I'm going to be too busy to do this. But please have respect that, while we want to help you and do it, we're trying to stay afloat here. And we just get, I don't know, I just got inundated with emails of people wanting to talk to me. And while if I had a rich husband, I'd just talk to y'all all day long, but I don't have. And I'm speaking for you too, Cyndy, because I know, if you want to spend an hour talking to me, I got an hourly fee, $125 an hour. You can talk for an hour. I'll listen. I'll help you out. You can do a mastermind. You can come to a boot camp. You can do whatever. But I don't know. Does that happen to you too, Cyndy?
Yeah, it does. And I think that's, we all need to have that mindset. It goes back to what you were saying in the beginning. Is it a hobby or is it a business? Providing professional knowledge and expertise, that's, what we're committed to do. But also, any of us, our time is valuable, and we don't like it when parents call or stop us, at the
after communion.
Store, and
after communion. That's when everybody, I used to be like, Mom, I'm not going to coffee hour after church, because as soon as communion leaves, I want to leave, because all anybody wants to do is pick my brain. I can't even go to the grocery store. I have to sneak and go to the grocery store at 10 o'clock at night, so I don't run anybody. So I don't like when anybody picks my brain. And these IECs should not let anybody pick their brain either.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't do that for a doctor and attorney. And
why not? Have a business card, and if somebody comes up and says, hey, I talked to you about my daughter. Hey, I got to run. Here's my business card. Please call the office, make an appointment. I'll be happy to talk to you. So, I just wanted to throw that out there, because I think that's a valuable lesson for us, but it's also a valuable lesson that I don't want people to pick any of our educational consultants' brains for free either. So that was my last thing.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So I'm going to try, and I do have a few things to share with everybody today in terms of some of the education updates. So let's make sure I can do this. All right. So hopefully you're seeing my screen. So I'm hoping we'll have a bit of time left over so that we can address, because I do see there's quite a number. And there's an update that came in this morning that Suzanne just pointed me to that I didn't even know about. So, we're all in this together. None of us have all the answers, or right now, none of us have any of the answers, but my goal is and our goal is just kind of point you in the direction and give you some food for thought. So, big news this week was the College Board canceled their June tests, right? So in fact, I was just on a College Board counseling webinar briefly this morning before we started. And, you know, on their website now, they're going to schedule tests every month. So they're adding a September test. They've never had September. Usually it's been August and then October, but now they're going to do September. Well, you know, who had their test in September? That was ACT. So now the students are going to be back to where they were before, where like in June, they can pick, or December, oh, I'm going to take the ACT and the SAT. I'm hoping that they'll be offered different weekends. I'm presuming that'll happen, but you know, who knows? But they can't even register for the test yet. It's not open. They said they're going to open them in May. College Board hasn't even, they posted their dates for next year's tests, but they haven't even posted registration dates yet. And here we are, you know, in the middle of April. So they're a little bit behind the ball on that. I feel it's really frustrating that the students can't even register for these fall tests yet, and they're going to know in next month. So however, and you may have heard, if the student already registered in June, if they registered for the June test, it's not going to happen now. They'll get early access to register in August, September, and October, because now what's going to happen, we're going to have all these seniors having to test in the fall, plus all the juniors having to test, you know, the upcoming class. So we're basically going to be serving 2 classes at once. And what does that sound like? So, you know, students have already registered in June and they're in the class of 2021, or if they don't have any SAT scores. So just like Jamie, she's in West Virginia, I'm in Central California. Many of my students may have 1 test, many of them don't have any tests yet. And so we were counting on these March and June tests to give them test scores for college planning and everything, and now they have none. So we'll see, but that's the plan. We'll see what happens. Where will the testing be? That becomes the big question. If you're going to have this whole group of kids that are all going to flood into the school or the college or church or wherever, you know, where's that going to be? So College Board has quote unquote said they're going to expand their capacities for a student to take the SAT. They talked about that this morning in the webinar. If you're not on the counselor list for ACT, SAT, any of the large organizations, your flagship universities, most of them all have counselor lists that you can get on, listservs and things. I would highly recommend it. So, you know, I get emails from the College Board and ACT and several other organizations to be able to gather, you know, be in the loop. And I used to teach AVID, and I always taught my AVID teachers, like, when it says counselor, that's your hat too, because your role, you're in that role. And for us as IECs, the same thing applies. We are advisors, college advisors. So whenever it says counselor, that's your hat too. So don't shy away from that. You know, go ahead and sign up for any of those things that say counselor, because that applies to you. So College Board said they're going to do it at schools, colleges, and local communities. We'll see what that looks like. Now, Joseph, you sent me this question. I appreciated that. And it is like the $1 million question. What if? What if the schools aren't open in July or August or September? What is the next plan? What's plan B? What's plan C? I was very impressed and heartened to see the College Board address this. And so on their website, I pulled this from their website. In the unlikely event schools do not reopen this fall, oh, guess what they're going to do? Same thing they've done with the AP. They're going to offer a digital SAT for home use. They're doing this for 3 million AP students. There's a whole heck of a lot more students to take the SAT in the fall than the APs. So it'll be interesting. I'm not surprised. You know, ACT is rolling it out this fall as well. The College Board has kind of preempted that by rolling out APs for this May, but let's see what happens. And they said, we'll ensure that the at-home testing is simple, secure, and fair, accessible to all, and valid. So those are big words. I don't know how they're going to guarantee it. I had a conversation with one of my students. We're in a very rural area. Many of my students live out in the country, and they don't have reliable internet. So then what? So they're addressing those issues. At least they recognize they're there. So that's plus. And and they're going to cover what the students learn in school and what they need to do to be successful in college. Well, that's always up to debate, and that we have the whole other side of that coin with test optional and how valid are these tests. So interesting things by the College Board. At least they've opened the door, and at least they're starting to think. And if colleges aren't starting to think about it, and other schools, other organizations, they need to be, because we don't know. So what about ACT? They still, as far as I can tell, have not canceled the June or July tests. So students are still signing up. They're still thinking they might be able to go. Now, ACT says they have rescheduled dates, but they're still in June and July. So I don't know. They're going to do at-home options for fall and winter. This was in an announcement they made just yesterday. So there is an article, they've updated it. I think they're missing the boat if they're going to roll it out in the fall or winter, why not do it now? So they're going to have a flexible schedule for summer 2020 dates, offer to make up tests for June and July. Oh, gee, you can move your test to the July date, unless you're in New York and you can't test ACT in July. And California was in that boat. And I just learned this week, thank you to those that helped me, that I guess California can test in July now. So I'm going to tell you, also next fall, we all know ACT is really, it's always interesting to watch testing and the whole evolution of testing, because, for a long time, you couldn't prep for the test, just go take it. And then Princeton Review came in and said, yeah, you can prep for the test. And so, it's been through this whole evolution, and ACT has always said, oh no, you can't super score the ACT. They're interdependent. We don't recommend that. And they've done trainings for colleges for years and years. And now, guess what? Oh yeah, you can super score the ACT. And we're even going to go better. We're going to give you section retesting. So if you did worse on the English, you retest that. If you did okay on math, you don't have to retest that. So this is a welcome thing. I think the College Board will eventually go to this. And so they're rolling this out, these 4 things in the fall, but they've already been rolling it out. Why not just roll it out sooner? So who does the prize go to? And I heard Lisa talk about this at a workshop, the webinar recently. And I thought, okay, the trophy goes to College Board, because at least they've opened the topic of what if there's no school, what will happen and how will that handled? And I'm giving the ACT the head in the sand trophy, the ostrich in the sand. They're not addressing current realities. They're just still saying, oh yeah, we're going to test in June. Oh yeah, and if they can't test in June, we're going to go in July. I don't know. I think they've missed the opportunity, and the chances of testing in June or even July with all the schools shut down. California, not all schools have officially shut down, but unofficially it's pretty, I don't know of any schools that are going to be going back into session this year. So it'll be hard to have these events hosted on a campus when they haven't been in school since March. So I'm giving the ACT the Head in the Sand Award and giving the award to College Board. So other things, other news, and these are all last week I hadn't put in the references. We will post this PowerPoint. The recording is going to be available so you can come back. So those questions like how many weeks did Jamie say? You'll be able to do that. And I'll have that posted on cindymcdonald.com. So you can go back to that. And then this PowerPoint will be there too. University of Chicago agreed to freeze tuition. How many other colleges are going to do that? I bet we'll see some, not as many as we'd like, but and then some higher education groups have put together guidelines for accepting credits for high school students, transfer students. The American Council on Education put out a statement. So lots of other things are coming into this. My husband works at a local community college, and they've been head on trying to deal with all the different ramifications, you know, refunding even parking permits. I mean, just so many ramifications and things. So lots of news, and I'm sure there's lots of news in your area. So I wanted to share a little thing on the light side. And since our kids can't go to, for most of them, can't go to their commencement, there's going to be a virtual commencement. It's offered by Natural Light. And you can see some of the guests: Mark Cuban, Amanda Cherney, Jane Lynch. So you can tell your students, although they can't even enter this website unless they're 18 and older. So it's more for college students than high school students. But I thought it was a nice symbol and a nice gesture to say, hey, we can't do it in real, let's have a virtual one. So I'm sure there are many of those for students. All right, Jamie. So those are our updates for this week, and you've gotten my take on it, and especially, you know, my award goes to College Board. At least they're being proactive. It was very interesting. I'd never heard Gary Coleman speak, and he was on the webinar earlier today. So those of you that caught it heard him, and, you know, at least they're being proactive. So last week we had different questions, and I'm just picked out a couple. And if we still haven't met your questions, you can send them to me and we'll cover them next week, as well, as Jamie said. But a lot of them we just don't have answers for. Like, what are the colleges going to do next year? What are their plans if they don't go back? That's a really good question. That's the $1 million question. And I'm not seeing a lot. I haven't seen much on that. I know some school districts are starting to talk about that, and I'm hoping the colleges are starting to talk about it. It's one of those things we hope they don't need, but they better have something in place in case they do. So I think those will be things that we'll hear more and more as the next few weeks roll out, and, you know, and see how the pandemic goes. But one question that came up is a lot of colleges are waiving the, you know, SAT requirements. California State University, Suzanne said, they just waived it this morning. And not only did they waive it, but they won't even look at test scores. So that's fine if you're Bakersfield, but if you're Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, those test scores are really important. So yeah, so we'll have to see what those ramifications are. And some schools say, well, will we consider a subject test or not? And then that same question comes in with SAT. If you submit them, will they be considered? My guess is yes, they'll be considered. And that's probably going to be a way students can really differentiate themselves next year. But more and more schools are going to not requiring subject tests. There are very few. I think there's like one maybe right now that requires subject tests. Many will consider them, but more and more are going into not even considering them. So I just put up a partial list here, kind of the most recent ones, who said that we don't want your subject test, and we won't even consider them if you put them on your list. So Swarthmore, Amherst, MIT, Caltech. Well, Caltech doesn't want to be left out. If MIT's doing this, they're going to do, and Harvey Mudd. So even the highly engineering, math, you know, schools are not considering those subject tests. Others are still taking them. Well, we don't require them, but if you submit them, we'll take them. Middlebury, Hamilton, Brown, Carnegie Mellon, Dartmouth. So if you want to see the full list, my shout out goes to Compass Test Prep. They do an excellent job. So many of our test prep companies give us such valuable information and work really hard to put together information for parents and students and advisors. And I found this list on the Compass Test Prep. So the link is here. Take a picture of it if you want, and you can go to this and get that whole list. They have a whole scrolling table that you can pull from. So other questions like, what's it going to do with international studies? We talked about it, they expect international student population to go down at least 25%. You know, are our students going to go to other countries? It's a really good question. What about majors that are not suited to distant learning, like nursing or engineering or, you know, law enforcement? Those are good questions as well. And are there going to be more double deposits this year? May 1 is rapidly approaching, and we're not recommending double deposits, but we know it happens. So it is going to be an impact for those students. So that's my take and my summary of the education news. So we can open it up. We've got about 10 minutes and we can open it up some questions. So Krista, are you?
I'm here.
You're with us? Okay.
So a lot of this stuff, I think Jamie has answered, and I know Jamie was part of the conversation answering while it was still going on. But Jamie, there was one thing that is not dealing with the CARES Act, the loans, the unemployment, I really think is important for you to touch on. You as my boss and my mentor have beaten this into my head that we do nothing without insurance. We ask our insurance everything before we do anything, and we had a new IEC on the thread saying that they only work with a few students, but they don't have insurance. And I did respond to him that, having no insurance puts you at risk, whether you have one client or 100 client. And I had a question that saying, what risk does that mean? So I said that you would touch on that a little bit in greater detail.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in insurance, and again, work closely with my insurance agent. As Krista knows, I also have a yoga studio, and I probably talk to him more about my yoga studio than I do here. And that's probably just because it's a newer business and I'm more settled in this. But we live in a very litigious society, and it doesn't really matter whether you have one client or I just totaled up. I had 250 kids in the class of 2020 that I worked with this year that came through our now think about what a big hunk of my business is graduating. Goodbye, I love you, go on. 250 of them, that's a lot of money, right? So I got big liability. But I think about, we had a very prominent IEC member die a few years ago, and she only had like 20 clients. And these people sued her estate, wanting their money refunded. And then we had people like Charlotte Clark and all these people taking over her practice. Highly respected educational consultants. And I just think that's like part of my complaint about when you're in business. You have got to understand that, this is going to fall back on you at some point. And Cyndy knows this situation, and whether you just need to CYA, cover your ass, and I think through IECA and through HECA, maybe they've got these they've got plans that you can do, which I don't think are really all that expensive. But otherwise, like whoever's got your homeowner's insurance or whoever your insurance is, I would talk to them. And then if this is the same person that said she was in a small community, that there was a state college there, and so she couldn't get a lot of business from that. My dad always used to say, even Jesus wasn't a prophet in his own hometown. So go find another hometown, because I literally am an hour from my hometown. People hire me from all over the country. If you all want to know probably who your biggest competition is, it's probably me, because I keep my prices low and I put my prices out there. But I can go to my home community. I did radio. I get no people from my own hometown. So if you don't get business from your hometown, go 2 towns over and start marketing there, because it is hard to get business in your own hometown. And you think that your friends will do business with you, and they won't. Just trust me. Trust me on that one.
Well, and you don't want to do business with your friends either, because
they don't want you to pay. Right. They don't want to pay. They don't want something for nothing.
Those are the ones that always call with a quick question for Jamie. So
Krista, they'll say, I'm friends with Jamie, and Krista will be like, okay, well, I've never heard your name, so I don't know whether that's actually the case.
Now, Cyndy, there was a question that maybe you wanted to start talking about. Is somebody was interested about when you would be anticipating hearing about financial aid awards and if that would change.
That's a really good question, and that's, we're expecting that, I mean, most students should have some kind of financial aid awards right now, but whether they can appeal it or not, absolutely. Everybody's situation is changing. The problem is going to be is that the colleges, their investments and stuff are changing too. So are they going to be more open, less open? It just depends. Some colleges are saying we're not even going to consider appeals till this summer. I know UC Santa Barbara flat out said that in a webinar, and that's pretty much their style anyway. So yes, I expect there will be a lot more shifting in financial aid. And then we've also talked last week a little bit about wait lists. Same thing. People are going to be pulled off a wait list sooner. You know, they're being pulled off now after May 1 and well into the summer. So those that can pay are going to be the ones that are going to be pulled off the wait list. And if you've had a major change in your employment, your parents, unemployed, things like that, you can send all of that in as an appeal. And last week I mentioned how you can change your FAFSA. You can change the assets now. You don't have to do it on, assets are based on the window of now where you're at. You can go in and adjust your FAFSA to cover that anytime. So, and that's another good thing to do with a CPA or, somebody, a financial consultant, expert to be able to go in and assess that. So, yeah.
Hey, Cyndy, one thing I saw somebody ask you a question, which I think is a great question, about whether you think that the colleges are going to adjust their tuition if they take a lot of their classes online. And that's something that I have been trying to think about, because I can tell you this is a monumental draw the line in the sand for us, because I don't think in 2 years any of us will be doing business as we are now, or we will be out of business. And I mean, I think the writing is on the wall that we're all going to have to go forward with online stuff. And I just had a meeting with one of my staff, because we do a lot of test prep here, and we're going to have to take this online. And the question is, do I charge different for an online prep than I do in-house? And it's interesting because there's a lot of these universities that are already, I mean, this is not like a new concept. They've been doing a lot of classes online.
Right.
So
BYU pioneered online education. They've been doing it for years.
So I mean, my personal feeling of that is no, I don't think the colleges will. Us as educational consultants, I think that is going to be something that we're going to be up against. And that might be a great topic for next week about, what does everybody feel about that? Because I'm telling you, if you all are not doing online stuff now, I mean, we're just going to have to go to it, because I don't think people, even if we go back to work, I don't think people are going to want to get out and come in offices and all that stuff. So I think this is a new reality that we all have to deal with. And I'm really reconsidering what I'm going to charge and things like that. So all these pricing strategies that I love, I love pricing. So I think that was a great question, but that's kind of, I don't know what you think about it, but.
Well, I think that brings up a really good point about overall, instruction is instruction, and the quality of the online education doesn't have to be less just because it's online. The quality of what we provide as professionals doesn't have to be less because we're doing it online. And in fact, I've been telling counselors, and this goes into, building your practice and things like that. And I've been talking to all my students saying, you need me now more than ever. You don't have access to your counselors at school. I hope they're emailing you. I hope you're staying in touch with them, but you need me now more than ever. And so people who are on the fence, in fact, I had this conversation with a parent yesterday. She's like, I'm so glad we decided to, because they don't have access to their counselor very well right now, through no fault of the counselors at all. But yeah, just because it's going online doesn't mean it's less. And in some ways we might be spending more. Those of you who have done the UC certificates, like through UCLA or UC Irvine, you're paying $700, $800 for an online class. So yeah, I think it goes back to that whole pricing mentality of valuing what you offer, but being cognizant of the differences and how we are going to deliver in the future, deliver services. HECA is doing a workshop, a webinar on it, I think next week. So some of you may have seen that. If you're HECA members, check that out. I saw that they have someone that's doing it. I don't know the people who are doing it. It looks like a couple of professionals. I think their last name is Green, Krista. So, but there are some opportunities, but I think that'd be a great topic to talk about for next week. So.
And also I saw a comment that somebody said that between last week and this week, somebody asked them to discount their prices and they did not discount their prices. I'm like, woohoo, go girl. Because then their financial crisis just becomes your financial crisis. And no, you are a professional in no way, shape or form. Like I say, you can change your prices every day if you want. I mean, I believe in posting prices on my website because if somebody can't afford me, I'm not going to spend any time trying to sell them, first of all. And we even have this discussion in the boot camp, which Cyndy, you've been, I love the synergy of the boot camp because everybody gives their opinion. We critique each other's websites and things like that. But the whole pricing component of it, it's so amazing to me. And maybe it's because the majority of educational consultants come to this from the education side where they're not used to charging, right?
Right.
But I'm seriously thinking about increasing my prices after this. I'm going to have to make up more revenue for these 3 months or whatever it ends up that I have it. So, I just think that your pricing is a mindset. And I love the fact that our forum from last week gave this girl the audacity to be like, no, I'm sorry. I am not discounting my price because if, it's probably somebody you don't want to do business with anyway.
Yeah.
Krista calls those their PETA clients. And you know what PETA stands for? Pain in the, sometimes you don't want a client.
Right.
Yep.
Well, join us again, same time, same place. Next week, we'll have Friday's forum. We'll summarize the week's news. If you have questions that we didn't get to today, we're going to address them next week. And other topics you want us to cover, I'm hoping to be able to bring in a college admissions person or a test prep person or, another financial planner or something. So, we're like we said, we're going to continue these as long as we need to. And most of all, please stay safe and stay healthy and just know that, we are all connected. We're all in this together. None of us have answers. And, all we can do is support each other. So we really appreciate your support, your being here, your voice, your contribution in your communities and in our community too. So from all of us, thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Everybody take care. Thanks. Bye.